Hi, it's Alaska Granny. I've been to Walmart. It's time to stock up for winter. I spent a lot of time this summer rotating through a bunch of my food storage in my Prepper Pantry stockpile, and so I need to replace some of those foods. Remember, when you're stocking up on food, it's to have a working pantry. You work your way through the foods. You use them, rotate, replace them. Canned foods aren't designed to last forever, but they can last for several years. If you want food to put away and not have to worry about it, you want to get the longest lasting foods like rice, beans, pasta, oatmeal, dried grains that you can put away, seal them in an airtight container, and they can last for 30 years. But these types of foods don't last that long. Things like vegetables and fruits will last a few years. Things like canned meats will last far longer. But you need to be choosing foods that you're willing to eat. Then you need to eat some of those foods, rotate and replace them. If you're looking at food and it's not something you want to eat, don't buy it because it's a waste of your time, your money, and your food storage stockpile space because you want to store foods that you do want to eat. Nobody wants to go to their pantry on any day, let alone in an emergency, to find foods that they don't like. Why wouldn't you fill up your pantry with foods that you do like? Then no matter what the day brings, whether you're in a hurry, you need to get a meal, or there is some kind of an emergency, you're going to find some comfort foods that you are actually willing to eat and maybe even enjoy them. One of the ways to decide how much food should you store, think about something like green beans. How often do you eat them? Do you want to eat them once a week? Then maybe you need 4 cans for a month. I have 12 of them. That would last for 3 months. But if you wanted to eat them every day, then you would need to have more. So that's how you can figure it out. If you want to eat it once a month, 12 cans are sufficient. If you want to eat it every week, then you're going to need more. So that's how you can decide. How often do you eat this food? Then that's how many you figure out for how many days, weeks, months, or a year that you want to have enough food on hand. I like a variety of canned vegetables. Of course, we'd rather have fresh, but that's not possible, especially in the winter if we need to grow our own. And I know specifically for myself, my garden did not do well this summer. It was a cold, rainy, wet, windy summer in Alaska, and so my garden basically didn't produce anywhere near what I would need for an entire year. It never produces an entire year because my garden is just not that big, but it didn't provide anywhere near what it usually does. So it's more important that I realize that and that I store extra vegetables into my food storage stockpile so that I make sure I have enough just even to get to next summer. So I have 12 each of green beans, mixed vegetable medley. Those are the mixed vegetables that include potatoes. If you just look for mixed vegetables, they don't have potatoes in them. So decide whether you want them or not, or if you can find them or not, or if there's a difference in the price. I have 12 cans of corn, kernel corn, and 12 cans of cream corn. So that gives me a nice variety of vegetables. I can serve them as is, like the green beans. I can mix them into recipes. For example, the mixed vegetable medley, I can put into a pot pie type recipe, a soup or a stew. I can add the corn into things like cornbread. And so it's nice to have a variety of vegetables, even if they're not your favorite. Maybe there are ways that you use them, so you want to have them on hand. So I have 48 cans of vegetables. Next, I picked up a selection of canned meat. I bought a few cans of the Hereford roast beef. These are very good, but I only bought a few of them because they tend to be a lot more expensive than, say, a can of vegetables. But it's important that you have some protein in your food storage stockpile. So I have a few cans of the roast beef. My favorite canned meat is chicken. I bought 16 cans of chicken. I like to use smaller cans if I'm just making a meal for myself, so the bigger cans are great for a family. Figure out how big of a meal you're going to be making, how many people you're cooking for, how big is your recipe, and try to get the size of can that's going to be right for that recipe, because if, say, the power goes out and you don't have a way to refrigerate leftovers, you don't want to make a meal for 8 if you're only serving 4. So sometimes the size of the can makes a difference. Something I haven't really tried is the Libby's Luncheon Loaf, and this one is chicken flavored. It was only a few dollars, so I thought I'd try it. I usually just buy one to try it, but somehow I ended up with 2. So if you see something you haven't tried before and you think you might like it, just get one. So hopefully I like it since I have 2. I bought 2 cans of chicken gravy. Meat flavored gravies are a great way to have meat flavor in a recipe. If you say don't have meat or you have only a little bit, it can stretch that meat flavor. You can put it over mashed potatoes, serve it over a stuffing mix. There's all kinds of ways that you can mix gravy into different recipes to give it a fuller flavor so that you might enjoy your meal a little bit more. I bought 4 cans of sliced potatoes. I don't use potatoes as much as other canned foods, so I bought 4 cans of sliced potatoes. They're nice to have on hand. Of course, we prefer to have a fresh potato. A nice fresh baked one would be good, but we can't always have a fresh potato, and so having something is better than nothing. I also like the Idahoan instant mashed potatoes, and maybe you even like the boxes of dried potatoes that you can add some water, milk, and maybe a few other ingredients and bake it in the oven or cook it on the stovetop. So look at different options to have the foods that you like. Canned beans are a great way to add protein into your recipes, and they're already prepared, so you can just drain them, rinse them, and add them into soup, stews, chilies, casseroles. I like to make a white bean chili with like green salsa verde and some canned chicken, so I'll have some extra great northern beans for those types of recipes. Next, I bought 12 cans of Rosarita refried beans. I think they're good. They're fun to make just a burrito. You can heat them up, add an egg on top for breakfast even, sprinkle them with cheese and onions. There are different ways that you can even add refried beans into different kinds of casseroles to give them more of a Mexican flavor that can really give variety and help your foods taste better, go longer, and give variety. Next, I bought a 12-pack of Nally thick chili. Chili is great to have in your prepper pantry because it's already like a full meal. You could just open it and eat it. You wouldn't even have to heat it up if you couldn't, because it's already prepared. Of course, it tastes better if you can cook it, warm it up, but you wouldn't have to. So find some foods that are ready to eat that you could have in case there's a real emergency and you can't cook anything. You can still have something that you can eat. And you'd way rather open up and eat a can of chili probably than a can of green beans. It's probably more enjoyable, has more calories, protein, and it's going to fill you up and keep you going in times of hardship if you need to. Oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a fresh baked potato and top it with some hot chili, maybe some cheese and onions? There's lots of things you can do with chili. I bought a 4-pack of tomato soup. It's nice to have with a grilled cheese sandwich, but there's also lots of recipes that you can use tomato soup. So look over the foods that you use often, think of different ways to use them, and make sure that you're adding variety into your prepper pantry food storage stockpile. Campbell's soup is a nice one to have to add some of that variety. I love the Great Value dried bananas. These are so good. They're only a few dollars a bag. It's nearly impossible to get a good tasting banana in Alaska, and so you can have dried bananas, open the bag, and just snack out of the bag. They're delicious and long lasting. If you've not tried the Great Value banana chips, check them out. They're on the fruit aisle with the dried raisins and things, and these are really good. But like I said, if you've never tried them and you want to check it out, just buy one and see if you like it. You can always go back and get more. Breakfast is calling. I have Krusty's Belgian waffle mix. It does require egg and oil, but I have oil on hand. And then I have some powdered egg that I bought from Augustin Farms. I also bought some egg substitute by Bob's Red Mill, and those are ways that you can have this still for breakfast, or any meal for that matter, and not have to worry if you don't have the fresh eggs on hand. There are other ways that you can have eggs that can last in your pantry. To go with my waffle mix, I also have some butter flavored syrup, and there are lots of other ways that you can use maple type syrups. You can put them into baked beans, over say a ham when you're baking it, add a little sweet flavor, maybe even pour it over some salmon and have some maple flavored salmon. So think of different ways to use the foods you have. I bought an extra bottle of canola oil. That's the oil that I like. I also have avocado oil. I have olive oil, but I also enjoy the canola oil. So I need to have an extra one on hand to make sure that I have enough going through the winter. I bought a jug of white vinegar. The price of vinegar has really gone up, and apple cider vinegar has gone up crazy how much it is. But if you want to clean with white vinegar, get rid of weeds with it. Maybe even you want to make pickles. Stock up on vinegar if it's something that you use. White vinegar is very useful for so many things. I made a video about ways to use white vinegar. I'll put a link to that video in case you want to have some ideas of how you might like to enjoy it too. It's hard not to love mac and cheese. It's so simple. I like the Kraft macaroni and cheese, so that's the one I buy. I don't care for the generic. I've lived long enough that I want to eat this one, and so that's what I'm going to do. I've also made this without anything besides just boiling the noodles and pouring in the powder without even the milk or the butter, and it still tasted fine. If you don't have fresh milk and butter, it doesn't matter. You can still make a meal with this. I also have powdered milk and powdered butter in my food storage stockpile in my prepper pantry, so it's not an issue. So I'll be able to make this, and oh, chili with my macaroni cheese, that might be good too. Or oh, macaroni and cheese and a bowl of tomato soup. There's a lot of different ways that you can serve these foods and make them have different ways to serve your food so that you don't have food fatigue, the same thing day after day. Nobody wants to eat the same thing day after day. I also bought a pack of canning jars. These are pint-sized, wide mouth. I would prefer the quart, but I couldn't find them, so I bought these because they're handy still to have. They're not my most favorite, but they're very handy. I've been making some soup mixes in a jar, so I needed some more jars for that. And then you can always use a recycled jar if you clean it well and dry it out. But I'm going to be using some of these jars for my soup mixes and to store some of the other dried foods in my pantry. 24 cans of Diet Pepsi. That's not going to last all winter, but it's certainly going to be enjoyable in the meantime. So these are the foods I bought at Walmart so that I could stock up for winter, make sure that I have enough food in my prepper pantry food storage stockpile. Take an inventory of the foods that you already have so that you don't redundantly continue to just buy the same food. You want to have some variety and be aware of the amounts of products that you use so that you have enough going forward and not too much of something that you can't use it up in a reasonable amount of time. So leave it in the comments below. What things are you adding to your prepper pantry food storage stockpile so that you'll have enough going forward? Foods are getting expensive, and lots of places in the world there are shortages, and there are some coming to a grocery store near a lot of us. So it's a good idea to add a little bit extra every time you go to the store. Even if you just pick up one item, that will be one extra meal that you might have down the road, which could really help smooth the way in all kinds of situations. I hope you like my video, share my video, and please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.